Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to How to Become Your Own Hero. Before we start talking about how to become your own hero, I thought we would first define what it is that a hero is. What is a hero? So, a hero is a person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievement, or noble qualities. One who shows great courage. That's the definition by Webster Dictionary. My definition of a hero. So, my definition is someone who shows great courage, someone who chooses their own path, someone who chooses their own goals and desires and purpose and values, someone who has self love, self care, self connection, self worth, self awareness, self authority, and self healing, and somebody who is willing to go on this journey to find themselves. I also believe that a hero is someone who stays true to themselves. So somebody who, despite what is going on around them, they continue to stay true to what matters and what is of value to them. I also believe that a hero is someone who inspires others to become their own hero, that helps them on their path after they've gone through their own challenges and their own things in their own life. I believe that a hero is somebody who helps somebody else through what they've been through. So I used to be somebody who was this. I felt so alone. I felt like I never fit in. I didn't feel like I fit in with my family. I didn't feel like I really had a big friend group. For the most part, I had, one or two really good friends at one time. But I never really felt like I fit in with the groups, the masses, in school, all of that kind of stuff. I also um, I felt like I was stuck. I felt like I was a lot of times on a loop or a hamster wheel, and I didn't or couldn't figure out how to take my next steps. Um, Especially where, and I definitely felt stuck in my beliefs, in my decisions, and it was almost like I was wrapped in chicken wire. That, at least that's the example that I used. That, like, I was ready to break free. I was ready to take that step. I was ready to get off that wheel, but it was like my skin was pressing up against this, and you could feel it. Like, you could feel the divots in the skin with how tight this chicken wire was holding me. And I just felt like I couldn't move forward. I also felt really disconnected from myself and from others. And um, so much of all growing up, I was told that I was too sensitive, that I needed to just let things roll off my back, that why was I always so sensitive all the time? And ultimately, um, being told that about myself all growing up really disconnected me from, like, an inner knowing and an inner truth that I truly had with myself. It wasn't until years later that I was able to really reconnect back to myself at first, and then be able to connect to others as well. I also felt like I've always felt like I was here to make a difference. I have felt that my whole life. I've felt this deep yearning, this deep connection, that I was meant for something more, that I was meant for, this purpose, this path. And also was at times unsure about what that was. It wasn't until many years later that I truly understand what my purpose and my path was. And again, this sensitivity where I was told to not listen to this sensitivity or not pay attention to this really led to me having a very hard time understanding what my purpose and path was, because my guidance system wasn't there. It wasn't available for me to be able to tap into and to truly understand where it was and where it is that I need to go in order to really step into my purpose. Um, I was also desperately seeking true connection with other like-minded individuals, women specifically, who were on the same or similar path. So much of my life, I have felt like so many people have not been on my same or similar path. And it's also been a struggle because I was raised in a religion and then I ended up stepping away from that religion. And I was born and raised in Utah. And then about, I think it will be almost 9 years, we moved to Kansas City. And again, I was raised in this religion, ended up stepping away from that religion, and moved halfway across the country to be surrounded by a whole bunch of people that were in that religion again. And many of them wanted me to be part of their religion again, and it just wasn't something that I was interested. It wasn't a path that I wanted to go down. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so it took me some time, but I realized that I would rather be all alone than be surrounded by people that I am not in alignment with. So I was so desperately seeking that connection that I surrounded myself with people who were just trying to change me and fix me and judge me and wanted me to be part of their religion again. And so it took me some time and a process to end up figuring out that, listen, I'm okay with who I am. I'm okay with the decisions I've made. And again, I would rather be all alone than be surrounded by people who I don't feel like I'm in alignment with. So the other thing that I was doing was seeking the advice of the advice, knowledge, wisdom from others instead of seeking it from myself. And again, this started at a very young age for me. It started with, religion. It started with, family and friends and what they told me to do. And then after I, grew up and left the religion and, became an adult, then it kind of went into spiritual teachers and gurus. And, I would get intuitive information that would hit me, information that I would receive and information I would know. And then I would have a spiritual guru or somebody who was spiritually inclined tell me that that information was wrong, or why was I doing that, or whatever else. And it was so fascinating because over the years, I ended up seeing so many of these things come full circle where people questioned and doubted me, and ultimately my information, my truth, my knowing ended up being the truth. So that was a beautiful lesson in learning to trust myself implicitly. And then also giving all of my power away. So again, this goes back to childhood for me tremendously with, being part of this religion that first and foremost was very patriarchal. And women didn't and don't really have a voice in this religion. And giving all of my authority giving all my authority away to them. And then also, family and friends and school and all of those other things in order to be accepted or not be judged or not get in trouble or whatever that looks like. So giving all of that power away. That's what I used to do. So this was a lot of who I was for the good majority of my life. So this is a little bit of my story, and this is how I did it. So basically, I was raised in an organized religion. This religion really didn't accept me, and I felt very judged because we didn't have a perfect family. And in fact, my parents ended up getting divorced at a young age, which was not acceptable in this religion. And because of that, things went a little crazy for my family. My siblings got involved in drugs and had trouble in school, and we moved, and my mom started dating somebody new, and all these other things. And the people in this religion truly did not accept our family the way that we were, and I I loved it. I loved this religion, and I would go by myself, even though my family wouldn't go. And I would sit by myself in church and all these other things, and I still wasn't accepted for being who I was. In fact, so many times the other parents wouldn't let their kids play with me, and I didn't understand this until later in life. But at the time, I truly didn't understand it, and all I really was seeking was friendship and connection. Um, and then when I was 16, many years later, I ended up being sexually assaulted. And because of that, a that led me down a path of complete identity crisis. Um, Everything I believed and knew about myself, especially being raised in this religion where, your morality and your sexuality was to be, you were to be pure, and there was to be no violation or anything like that. And everything I knew about myself, my entire life was shattered. Um, Eventually, I ended up leaving this religion, and really started to question everything. Um, I even questioned if there was even a higher power. And I was so full of pain. I was so full of loss. I was so full of suffering. And I was so full of trauma, and not just trauma, but compounded trauma. I had a horrible self-image. I had body dysmorphia. I had incredible self-loathing, and I felt completely unworthy. Um, Partly because of my upbringing and programming, but also because of what had ended up happening to me. For so many years, I believed that this abuse was my fault, that I was the cause of it, and I should have known better, and it shouldn't have happened. And if I would have done this, and if I would have done that, and I actually kept it to myself for a really long time. I didn't share it with anybody. And then when I did, I felt violated because I shared it with somebody. And so it was this whole process of uncovering um, that it was not my fault. And then in 2008, I ended up having a dream, a spiritual dream. I started therapy, intensive therapy, and I started doing incredible work, cognitive behavioral therapy, where we started going in and questioning some of these beliefs that I had. And in 2008, I remember when I was working with him at the end of 2008, almost the beginning of 2009, I had this dream where I was killed. There was four parts of me that were beheaded by four different. It was four different versions of me, and it was four different people that were beheading me. And so I ended up relating that to a mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional death of me. And and then and then once I died, I morphed into one and became one being. So that was kind of the beginning of the spiritual journey for me. And then in 2011, I had probably one of the most troubling years of my life. My husband's brother and my childhood best friend both died within a month of each other. And I was so sad. I was suicidal myself. And I just thought, how come they get to go, but I have to keep doing this? How much more do I have to go through before my time is done, where I don't have to do all of this hard stuff anymore, because life had felt so heavy and hard up until that point. Um, so I dealt with suicidal ideation a lot. And again, this compounding trauma, anytime anything, and it could have been, fairly minor. When something happened, I would jump into this space of, I just can't do this. I don't want to do this. How much more do I have to keep doing? Why is this happening to me? There was so much of, why is this happening to me? Um, and then at the end of 2011, so that same year, the end of 2011 was actually on New Year's Eve. So the beginning of 2012, I had an awakening. Um, I had an experience where I saw things that I saw a trajectory of my life, And I knew without a doubt that I did not want my life to keep going this way, that the people I was surrounding myself with, the things that I was doing, the path I was on, it was not for my highest good, my highest and best good. And it was in that moment that everything shifted for me. I went on my complete spiritual journey, um, and knew that my path was so much bigger and greater than what I was doing at that moment, um, which led me to how I did it. So, and I share some of the story with you. It's not all of my story, but it's some of my story. I share some of this with you, not for pity and not for you to feel sorry for me or to or anything like that. It's to show you where I was at and to show you where I am at today. So, how did I do this? How did I go from um, how did I go from that person to this person? Um, I learned to stop overthinking, and one of the key pieces, and I will forever thank my therapist for this. He introduced me to meditation. I really started to understand mindset, mindfulness, meditation, and how those ended up being a pivotal part in my life. Because if we have an unmanaged mind, it just keeps going. So I also learned how to awaken to my deep, fulfilling truth. Um, and then learn to trust my intuition. And the intuition piece, that was such a key piece for me. And the more that I um, managed my mind and meditated and practiced my mindfulness, the more I tapped into my and trusted my intuition. And the more I trusted my intuition, the more I awakened to my deep, fulfilling truth, the more access I had to who I was. And then that ended up moving me into my inner wisdom. Um, Knowing, going and seeking answers within instead of looking for answers without. And so I would go and I would sit in meditation and I would ask the questions to my higher self. What is my next steps? How do I move forward with confidence? How do I start making decisions with clarity? And that's exactly what I did. I started um, to get really clear, building this confidence. And again, this came from trusting myself, acting on it and trusting, and acting on it and trusting. And the more I moved forward with this confidence, and the more I listened, and the more I trusted, the more clear I got, the more confidence I built. Um, and then I also did a lot of healing and releasing of this compounded trauma. Again, I felt like I was a person who was wrapped in this chicken wire, and I was just ready to release and let it go and break free of this compounded trauma. And then, so I did a lot of healing. I did a lot of Reiki and bioenergetic healing and reconnective healing, and all of these things I'm now certified in, because I truly believe that we hold some of this stuff in our body. We hold the trauma, we hold the loss, we hold the grief, we hold um, the pain in our body. And if we don't learn how to release it and let it go, then it continues to build, and feelings that are buried alive, they never die. So I really learned how to heal and release this in my body, which helped me end up creating the life that I truly desire. So, how did I do this? I did this through an amazing 3-step process. And it all started with building the foundation. So, foundation, trust, and action. So, this is my 3-step process. So, we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper. Foundation first. So, understanding the transformative process of mindset, mindfulness, and meditation. So, again, meditation saved my life. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% of them are negative. If we do not learn how to manage our mind manages us. And meditation is a beautiful process, and learning how to start recognizing thoughts that we're having and to start building a mindfulness relationship with ourselves. so that we are not just thinking thoughts and believing everything that we're thinking. The other thing that ended up being part of this foundation was learning that our thoughts create our results. So we believe that circumstances cause our results. We think that circumstances create our feelings. We think that circumstances create our actions, and circumstances create our results. But the truth is that circumstances, they just create our thoughts. We have a circumstance, and it's not until we think something about that we end up making that mean something. And then because of that thought, we end up having a feeling, and that feeling ends up driving our actions, and those actions ultimately create the results in our life. We also, I also learned in this foundational piece that repeated thoughts end up creating our beliefs. So whatever thoughts that we're thinking, when we repeat them and repeat them and repeat them, and we can repeat thoughts that don't serve us and that aren't good for us, we can repeat so many thoughts based on past trauma, past pain, past experiences, like believing, for instance, that the sexual assault was my fault, or maybe even believing that the reason why my parents got divorced at such a young age was my fault. Like these are repeated thoughts that we can think. Or for instance, I always fought with my siblings growing up, and my brother would call me names, and I would say to myself, yeah, you really are that. I have it written in my journal over and over again. So these repeated thoughts, they end up becoming our belief systems. And those belief systems, they shape our relationship with ourselves, they shape our relationship with other people, and ultimately, they shape the relationship with how we see and view the world. And then also in this foundation is building and expanding upon the most important relationship that you will ever have, the one with yourself. You cannot help anybody in your life, not your children, your parents, your spouse, anybody else, until you put your oxygen mask on first. And I truly believe that it is nobody's job to make you happy, to give you what you need, to do for you what you need to do for yourself. Most people don't even know what they want. How can we expect them to give us what we want? So that is the foundational piece. And it starts with foundation first, just like a house. Without the foundation, everything crumbles. So I started with this foundational piece first. Then I ended up moving into trust. So again, trusting yourself first, and then extending that outward as you get very clear about who you are. So the first part was really defining what was most important to me. What did I value the most? And I spent a lot of time figuring this out. I used to kind of consider myself a chameleon, where I would just kind of glob on to what any and everybody else was doing. Again, it took me moving halfway across the country, being surrounded by a whole bunch of religious people that I didn't want to be around, to figure out that I'd rather be alone than be surrounded by people I don't want to be around. So it's so important to get clear about who you are and what matters most to you. And there are amazing tools out there that can help you do that. And then it's understanding, like, who are you giving your authority to? And how do we end up bringing that back? So many of us are giving our power and our authority away. And I'm going to give you an example. Number one is, when you say you don't know, you are giving all of your power away. Start asking yourself, what if I did know? Right? So that's just one example. But the other thing is looking to yourself for the answers. When you ask somebody, what should I do? Again, you're giving all of your power away. Start asking yourself, what should I do? If I knew, what would that look like? Right? So start bringing that power back. And as you bring that power back, and as you build upon that authority and that authority with yourself, it builds and it magnifies like a snowball. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And that is where confidence and self-confidence, because there's a difference between them. There's a difference between confidence and self-confidence. So self-confidence is something we have to build in what we're creating, and confidence is something that we're comfortable with, something we know how to do. So we start to build that confidence that moves us into self-confidence. And then we have to learn how to go within. So again, another part of this trust process is truly, going back to this authority piece, another important part of that is being able to set really clear boundaries. So setting really clear boundaries and recognizing where you end and where somebody else begins. And as you're able to do that, you're able to navigate your life a little bit easier. And it may start with actual physical boundaries, and then you are able to kind of extend that out and create energetic boundaries as well. So again, learning to go within instead of going out. Being able to step fully into your power and being able to make decisions that feel right for you every single time. And that starts building that inner knowledge, and that inner intuition. So when you ask yourself, when you go in, when you start saying, I know, or what if I did know, and you start moving into your inner authority and your inner wisdom, your inner truth, and then you start acting on that, you start again building that inner knowledge, that intuition, and you build that trust, that self-trust. And so many people don't have that trust, especially if you've been a victim of abuse or pain or trauma. You really don't learn to trust yourself. And especially when people have told you that who you are or what you do or how you do it isn't right, and you've got that cognitive dissonance inside of your head, you don't really trust who you are. So it's a matter of taking these baby steps in order to expand and really, really, really connect and trust yourself on a whole new and deeper level. The last piece is action. How do you get it done? So this is a process of even though you're afraid, you still do it. So feel the fear and do it anyways. And this was all about, so as I built the foundation and then started to learn to trust myself, then I started taking action and I started creating a plan and I created structure and I created routine. In fact, I ended up creating a course. It's called Jumpstart, where it's all about creating a routine for daily foundational alignment. That starts with meditation and gratitude and affirmations and positive reading, so that you can start your day off in a way, and you can start looking at what results that you want, and you can apply that method to your day, to this structure and this routine. Then you learn to take massive action towards the desires that you want in your life. So depending on what that looks like, for me, it's building a coaching business. A couple years ago, it was building a real estate business. And what you do is you get the end result. So if it's a set amount of money, if it's a matter of how many clients you want, whatever that looks like, you get your end result, and then you work yourself backwards from there. So, and then you just keep going until you achieve that result. And then you start to really build self-awareness around the areas that you need more balance and alignment. And you start to recognize, and you become so clear about who you are, you can start to see where those imbalances come and where you need to kind of shift and grow and expand and change and improve. Not because there's something wrong with you, because this is, in my opinion, this life is about becoming the best version of who we are. So then you're able to take, you learn how to apply this process in each area of of your lives. So if it's health and wellness, if it's relationships, if it's money, if it's career, if it's how to have more fun, recreation, you're able to take this process, the foundation, the trust, the action, and you're able to rinse and repeat. You're able to do it over and over and over again in your own life, so that you ultimately can generate this deep, fulfilling love and connection with yourself, bringing yourself back home and becoming your own hero. So do you want to become your own hero? If you do, you can get your free custom blueprint. Um, I've got a masterclass that you can watch, and I am offering free blueprints where we go in and we map out where you are, specifically where it is you want to go and how we can apply this process to your own life. What goals do you want to achieve, and how can we work you backwards to get you there? If you want to join if you're like, oh, that sounds amazing, and we end up talking and you're like, wow, I really want some more support. I want to be part of this community because that is part of what I'm building, is this beautiful community of like-minded women who want to come together, who want to share, who want to connect, who are seeking connection with other women who are like-minded, who are on the same path, who are headed in the same direction. Then you can join the Hero's Journey Back to Self. That includes a 12-week guided mentoring system. It is tutorials and tools and worksheets. You get 12 guided meditations that you do every week. We have live weekly group coaching calls. There's 2 different time options for you to choose. You also then get access to the video replays for those live coaching calls. I am offering 3 distant healing sessions. So again, the healing part, the energy that is stored in the body, this is a great way to help clear some of that energy in the body. I am also offering 1 60-minute one-on-one session. So that can be used for astrology if you want to see a blueprint specifically of when you were born, or if that's not of interest to you and you just want to do a one-on-one session, I offer that as well. Again, you get access to this private community group of like-minded women, and you also get email, IG support, community support. I am here to help you through this journey, to help you become your own hero. Because last year, I was actually doing a healing training, and we had a therapist that came in and asked us to do this exercise where we were supposed to name our 3 heroes, and then we were supposed to name the 3 attributes about that hero, those heroes. And the first person I thought of was myself. And then I quickly kind of questioned myself, and I was like, oh, that's probably not the answer that he's looking for. He's probably looking for 3 people and their 3 attributes. But I did name myself. So I actually had 4 people. And quite frankly, I really struggled to find my 3 additional people. One of them was my mentor, who was actually teaching the course, the bioenergetic healing course. But I really did struggle to find my other heroes, because I really haven't been able to depend on other people in my life. I've really had to depend on myself, which has felt exhausting at times. Anyways, when we ended up sharing that who our heroes were, I said to him, I said, listen, I ended up naming myself first. And he said in the 20 years that he's been doing this, he's never had somebody name themselves as a hero. To me, there is nothing more important that when somebody asks you who your hero is, that you name yourself. You should be your number 1 first and foremost hero. So if you want help to become your own hero, I can help you through the process. As somebody who's been there, as somebody who has been on the other side, who has been through pain, who's been through trauma, who has been through grief and loss, I can help you on the other side to get so clear about who you are, so that you can stop overthinking. You can tap into your truth, your inner knowledge, your inner intuition, your inner knowing, so that you can create the life that you want. So I'm so grateful you guys were here. I hope if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you want to schedule your free blueprint, you can reach out, and I will send you the link. And yeah, it's time to become your own hero. Again, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to chatting with you on a blueprint call.